Welcome to my review of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, brought to you by Guinness Beer. Seriously though, this is some of the craziest amount of product placement I have seen in a DC movie since the Skittles thing in Shazam. Guinness must have been paying for those reshoots, man. That or Jason Momoa just really likes to drink their beer. So Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is the sequel to Aquaman from 2018. It's once again directed by James Wan, and it's the final film in the DC extended universe that Zack Snyder started all the way back in 2013 with Man of Steel. There's been, like 12 or 13 of them, I think, by now, and look, it's not the greatest cinematic universe ever created. It's definitely, it wanted to be what the MCU was in its early stages. I don't think it achieved that whatsoever, but there are some solid movies in there. The first Aquaman being one of them. I'm a big fan of James Wan and that first film. And there are a lot of reasons that gave me apprehension about going into this sequel, and we'll talk about some of those. But I'm surprised by how many people are critiquing this film by saying that it's too goofy or silly or campy. That's what the first Aquaman was, and quite frankly, a lot of people dug that, myself included, and it is very campy and bizarre and ridiculous, absolutely absurd, but it also has this fun Shakespearean element to it, squabbles over the leadership of kingdoms and stuff like that that make it a little bit more interesting. And the plot of this film is basically Yahya Abdul-Mateen II's character, Black Manta from the first film. He was a side villain in that story. Here he's in the forefront, he's back, and he wants revenge on Aquaman for the death of his father, which also happened in the previous one. And yeah, there's a bunch of stuff sprinkled in there about the Lost Kingdom and ancient empires and this black trident. We'll get into some of that in a bit, but first, the things that I liked about this film. First of all, the dynamic between Jason Momoa as Arthur Curry, Aquaman, and his brother Orm, played by Patrick Wilson, who was kind of the main big baddie of the last film, but they were able to get him to step down as King of Atlantis. We start out this one, he's imprisoned, but for various reasons that are not well explained whatsoever, Aquaman has to go break him out, and the two of them team up. That was a dynamic that was really cool. Not only did it provide some comic relief, which I mean, this franchise is well known for, and Aquaman is well known for, because again, it's so silly. But also, they genuinely gave these two a little bit of a character arc, which I did not expect whatsoever. Arthur basically learns to make peace with his enemies, and Orm discovers that he could learn a thing or two from Aquaman, even though he's a bit of a brute at times. The visuals are rock solid. I think the editing is a bit poor at times, but again, despite the fact that this is a big, massive corporate product, a sequel to a billion-dollar film, James Wan leaves his stamp on it. You don't see it through the entire film by any means, but there was one scene where a character stands up and in the darkness behind him, you just see Black Manta's eyes light up. And that to me reminded me that this is a James Wan film and that he's very well known for his horror sequences. The last one had that segment on the boat where they're nearing the trench and all these horrific creatures start boarding the boat and attacking them. That was really cool, and there's some stuff like that in here too. Another pro is absolutely the creature designs. Some of them are very Lovecraftian, and others are just variations of sea life that you would see in the real world, just bigger and weirder looking. The humor is largely hit or miss, but I do want to point out that there were a few jokes that really landed well for me, particularly this one involving Orm not liking human food, the food that land dwellers eat, and there's a running joke involving a cockroach in a burger that moves into the post-credit scene that I thought was thoroughly hilarious. And Randall Park is in this. I don't remember seeing him in any of the trailers, so I had no idea he'd be playing a character in here, but he provides some comic relief too, just a generally very charismatic guy that definitely elevates a very simple role. Alright, let's talk about some cons now. I did go into this with low expectations, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but this is a messy, messy movie. A large portion of the plot centers around global warming and climate change. I don't know if it was actually trying to say anything about that. Maybe it was just including it in there to be somewhat relevant to real life, even though, again, it's so goofy and over the top. Side note, I'm not sure why I thought of this right now, but they wrote out Willem Dafoe's character from the first one. First of all, why do you write out Willem Dafoe? If Willem Dafoe cannot show up to shoot on a certain day, you change your shooting schedule to center around Willem Dafoe, because he was one of the best parts of the previous movie. Plus, I just think he's a really great actor. But the way they wrote him out of this story was ludicrous. I can't believe they did it. Next, let's talk about Black Manta. I really like the character. I like Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. I hope I'm saying his name right. In here, he feels very dumbed down. He's reduced to saying these big, cheesy villain one-liners. I know I said that I like the cheesy factor of these films, but it went a little bit too far here to the point that that's all he says. He doesn't really have any dialogue that conveys any actual substance to the audience. And this kind of makes the same mistake of Thor: Love and Thunder In that film, Gore the God Butcher picks up this necro sword, and through the rest of the film, he's being influenced by it and essentially controlled by another being. Black Manta's the same here. I'm sick of using cursed objects as reasons to make villains into villains. I mean, it was a good excuse for them to make Black Manta much stronger so he could actually put up a fight against Aquaman in this movie, but there are other ways they could have written that into the story without this object that completely controls his will. And the dialogue issue is not restricted to Black Manta. I think the dialogue as a whole is pretty bottom tier. I want to reiterate that I like the pulpiness of these movies, but they took it too far here, especially with the whole dude bro personality that Jason Momoa has going. I get that that's kind of the point of this character. He's a king, but he's also a big doofus. But if you're not going to take your protagonist seriously at all at certain points, it becomes a bit grating and over the top. Also, like I mentioned before, I want to talk about the exposition in this because yes, there are massive dumps of information about the Lost Kingdom and the Black Trident and warring kingdoms of the past. And it's a shame that they bring some of the best actors in this film just to deliver that exposition. Nicole Kidman, she has no introduction scene. She just shows up, delivers some exposition, and then you don't see her again for a half hour. Same with Amber Heard, who honestly has a lot bigger of a role in this than I would have expected given the drama behind her. And it was so blatantly obvious that this is a movie that has been dissected and reconstructed numerous times, and I kind of expected it to feel that way knowing that there were abysmal test screenings long ago and the Amber Heard drama, etc., etc. But just because I knew that it was going to feel that way going in doesn't excuse the fact that it does feel that way. And they've had years and years to make this feel like a coherent film. I do not think it was destined to be the last film of the DCEU. It's not a big team-up movie. It's not Avengers Endgame. It's really just a rehash of the first film. I genuinely did enjoy the dynamic between Patrick Wilson and Jason Momoa. Other things like the visuals and stuff, but you could go and rewatch the first Aquaman and get all of those things and also get a coherent story and dialogue that isn't so rock bottom. So yeah, I might have been praising this movie a bit more than I was anticipating, but that's only because it wasn't as horrible as I thought it was going to be. This thing is rocking like a 36% on Rotten Tomatoes or something right now, and I don't think that completely represents its quality. This is just, it's middle of the road. It's comic book movie mediocrity. We've seen a lot of those in the past. I would say this is about on the level of something like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It's not terrible, but it's certainly not going to satisfy people who have been watching these films for a long time and are expecting something different or unique. James Wan is innocent, though. I think he did the best that he could in the position that he was in, and it just kind of turned out to be an average, mediocre, wet fart of an ending to this cinematic universe. So let's give Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom 2.5 stars. Yep, I'm standing by it. I still think this is better than Shazam! Fury of the Gods and the Marvels. Some of the other comic book movies that we've gotten this year, yeah, that would be debatable, but it wasn't as terrible as I thought it was going to be. If you do see Aquaman in the Lost Kingdom, be sure to let me know in the comments what you think of it and how does it compare to the first film. Also, while you're at it, let me know if you're excited or not for the new James Gunn universe that's going to be kicking off in 2025 with Superman Legacy. I'm a little apprehensive because James Gunn has a very specific skill set. I don't know that it's quite suited for characters like Superman and Batman yet, but we shall see. I'm willing to give him a shot. Stay tuned for more reviews. We've still got more coming out this weekend, hopefully, guys. I'm trying to get these out as quick as I can before Christmas, but thank you so much for tuning into this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.